one of the most famous and efficient study method of Elon Musk. Elon Musk's application of first principles thinking is a problem-solving approach that involves deconstructing complex problems into their most fundamental, undeniable truths, often based on physics, then building innovative solutions from that foundation, rather than reasoning by analogy or relying on existing conventions. This philosophy, while simple in concept, is a powerful and mentally demanding framework that has allowed Musk to challenge and disrupt established industries like aerospace and automotive. What is first principles thinking? In simple terms, first principles are the basic axioms or foundational assumptions in any given field that cannot be deduced from any other proposition. The concept dates back to Aristotle and the ancient Greeks, but Musk has popularized it as a modern business and innovation strategy. Musk contrasts this method with reasoning by analogy, which is how most people approach problems. Reasoning by analogy involves looking at what others have done, adapting existing solutions, and making incremental improvements. This leads to evolutionary progress. First principles thinking, by contrast, involves abandoning existing forms and focusing solely on function and fundamental truths to create revolutionary, brand new solutions. For Musk, the most reliable first principles are often the laws of physics. He views the world through this lens, asking what is physically possible and ignoring what experts or traditional practices might deem impossible or too expensive. The three-step process. Musk's approach can be broken down into a practical three-step process. 1. Identify and define current assumptions. The first step is to recognize the assumptions you hold about the problem or situation. This involves questioning everything that is known to be true in the field. 2. Break down the problem into fundamental principles. Deconstruct the situation until you're left with only the most basic, undeniable truths, the bare essentials. 3. Create new solutions from scratch. Once you have the core building blocks, you reassemble them in the most efficient and innovative way possible, unconstrained by prior art or conventional wisdom. Application at SpaceX, the rocket example. The most cited example of Musk using first principles thinking is with SpaceX. When he initially sought to send a payload to Mars, he looked into buying a rocket, but found the price absurdly expensive. Instead of accepting the high cost as an unchangeable fact, he applied first principles. Assumption: rockets must cost tens of millions of dollars. Deconstruction: first principles. Musk and his team broke the rocket down to its raw material components: aerospace-grade aluminum alloys, titanium, copper, and carbon fiber. Reassembly: new solution. He asked, what is the value of those materials on the commodity market? It turned out the raw material cost was only about 2% of the typical price. This revelation led him to the conclusion that a rocket could be built in-house for a fraction of the cost. He started SpaceX to purchase the materials cheaply and build the rockets himself, which ultimately reduced the cost of launching a rocket by nearly 10x. Impact on Tesla and other ventures. This same thinking applies to Tesla's innovation in electric vehicles and batteries. Traditional assumptions about battery cost and production were challenged. Instead of accepting the slow incremental improvements of the existing supply chain, Musk's team focused on the fundamental chemistry and manufacturing processes to design the machine that makes the machine better and more efficiently. He encourages this approach in all his ventures, from Neuralink's brain-computer interfaces to the Boring Company's tunneling solutions. The goal is to avoid the herd mentality and push the boundaries of what is physically possible, rather than being limited by historical precedent. Challenges and considerations. While powerful, this method is not without its difficulties. As Musk himself has noted, thinking from first principles takes a lot more mental energy than reasoning by analogy. It requires deep knowledge of a subject's foundational elements, often physics, economics, and mathematics, and a willingness to put in the immense work required to build something from the ground up. However, for those willing to do the work and question assumptions, first principles thinking provides a framework for true innovation and a unique worldview for solving incredibly difficult problems that others might deem unsolvable. It is the mental model that separates incremental improvement from groundbreaking disruption.